Hi everyone and welcome to this conversation session. I have my friend here, Akai, otherwise known as Rozay. I haven't seen Rozay in a long while, and I'm so glad to see her today. Rose, welcome to the
Ekemini, that is not a good thing to say. It's not a good thing because if you call me your friend, you can't say that you haven't seen your friend in such a long while. Especially when we stay in the same city. And surprisingly, let me not give out too much, but we do stay in the same city. And the city that we stay in, it's not such that we can't see ourselves regularly.
Oh, but truly, I haven't seen you in a long while.
Why?
It's up to 2 weeks since I saw you, and that's a long while.
2 weeks is a long while.
Yeah, it's a long while.
No. The last time you saw me wasn't 2 weeks ago. It was not too long ago, but then it was briefly for something, right? We haven't seen as friends. We haven't talked and chatted as friends.
Okay, so
That's where the problem
let me
is.
take responsibility for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's you. You're the busy one.
Well, you're equally busy. so good to
Good
have
to
you
see
around.
you. Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
I know very well that you've put in. You did a number of years on radio as you call it on a personality, right? I'm correct.
Broadcast journalist, radio
Broadcast
presenter,
journalist, yeah.
on air personality.
So I know very well that you had done like 10 years before recently you voluntarily decided to leave the last radio station that you stayed.
Yeah,
And 10 years was a long time.
it was.
But I personally would have wished that you continue beyond 10 days, 10 years.
Please.
But honestly, it's a personal thing, and therefore, even lawyers do retire after some time, and other professionals do retire. I have a friend that is a seller. After selling for like either 7 or 10 years, he decided to,
Hang his
retire
boots,
from
yeah.
that and then do some other thing. So, but what had it been like? What was it like, being a broadcaster for 10 years? What was the experience?
It was an amazing experience. I have tales, stories to tell. I don't know if I can't say, it's too early to call, but radio broadcasting was such a fun job, right? Such a fun job. The kind of things I talked about, the people that I met, the interviews I carried out, going also out there to investigate some stories, and all of that. It was fun, really fun. And I have stories to tell for days. The good, the bad, the ugly, the nasty stories, all the stories, all the stories. But it was such a beautiful experience. I did not know that radio was going to be that beautiful, despite the other things it came with. I did not know. I just wanted to do radio as a child, as a young adult. And radio came along, and then when I got on radio, I now realized that it was actually more than meets the eye. Radio wasn't just about talking; it was actually so much more. So for my 10 years, it was beautiful, really beautiful experience, meeting people, and the fact that I made people smile, made people happy. But I think there's just something about me. I don't know how it is. I'm not a comedian though, but I think I just get people to smile and just make them feel like there's no problem in the world. Meanwhile, the problem is, So that was good, knowing that I could get calls or messages from people like, oh, you don't know how you make me feel when you're on radio. Not the people who would tell me how I make them feel in the other way. You know what I mean?
Criticize them.
No, not criticizing me. Those who would
But you're
think
very
that.
strong in criticizing people.
Yes,
and
I
you
do
stood-
that.
You were so firm about
Yes,
that.
calling out politicians. But I mean people who would listen to my voice and say, oh, they're in love with me just because they're listening to my voice.
Okay.
I mean people who would genuinely tell me that they love the fact that in a way I bring some kind of hope, or I inspire them, or I have, made them more enlightened, So yeah, that works. But hey, for the people that love me too, I love them back, That also works, yeah. But I'm just saying that it was such a beautiful experience. The different kind of people. And then the stalkers, the ones who would like you on radio and feel like they must know you, and had one nasty experience like that. So radio was so fun. It was so fun, really fun. The colleagues I worked with, the ones that I didn't like but I had to work with, See, hey God, radio is fun. It's fun. You know what it means not liking someone but having to do a show with the person?
Yeah.
I'm acting like everything is okay, but then you're taking a break and you're fighting, and then you're going back on air, and then you're talking, and nobody can tell that you guys are fun. So I mean, this radio was fun. I had to wear many hats. I had to have multiple personalities in a way. It was fun. So it was fun 10 years.
I remember you anchored a number of programs.
Oh yeah, over time I did a lot.
Over time.
really did a
I
lot.
first met you at Planet FM,
Yeah.
and the programs you anchored at Planet FM were not the same programs you anchored at Comfort FM.
Yeah. I actually started off as I was basically doing entertainment when I started radio.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I did not. Oh, was it entertainment? No, it wasn't entertainment. It was actually the mid-morning show. So right after the late Cleo Tower, so I was doing the mid-morning show because some stations have the mid-morning belt and all of that. So I was doing that. And then I got onto entertainment, and then I started doing interviews, political interviews. I was on the Sunday show. I was doing the night show. I was doing everything. So my first 3 years on radio at Planet FM, I was so grounded. I was so grounded. And I think also helped me because my personality was easy for me to get into the different moods for those different shows. Going from serious to holy, something like all of that, and then going to getting into entertainment, and all of that. So yeah, I was really rounded. And then in my second radio, where I left finally, I now focused on politics and current affairs. Well, I never liked it, but it just happened.
But you did so well.
Yeah, that's the thing. As I said before, I think something about me. I feel like if I'm given a job to do, I have to do the job to the best of my ability. And I'm a reader. I like to read. So it wasn't so difficult for me to start, reading about some of these things that I had to catch up with, current affairs. And so, I did the job.
Yeah, so there's this particular program we used to anchor on Sundays, reading the verses of the Holy Book. And then
I was a preacher.
Honestly.
I was a preacher.
So let me ask, have you been to the School of Theology before?
Actually, no.
Really?
No, but I was born in the church. Born in the church in the sense that my parents were religious people, staunch Pentecostals. So I was born in the church. All my life, we knew the Bible. We knew the scriptures. We had to... When I was much younger as a child, we used to go from church to church winning Bible quizzes, recitations, and all of that. So you see the background I was coming from, that somehow it was ingrained in us. And so it was kind of easy at that point when I was asked to. And how I was asked to do the Sunday show was very funny. My former boss then, the first man who gave me the platform to be on radio, was like, can you do this show? And it was just about two weeks or so. I was still a trainee. I think 1 week or 2 weeks. And I said, I want you to try the Sunday show. So can you do it? I never backed down from a fight or a challenge. And I said, of course I could do it, Because I was a church person in my mind. I said, what's there? Is it not to, talk about God? I mean, I'm a Christian. I could talk about God and play gospel songs. And he said, okay, you should do it. So I did it that Sunday. And he was impressed. Like, wow, this was barely 3 weeks into radio. But I was able to hold the Sunday show.
Honestly, the first day I heard you, preach
you felt
on
like
radio,
this guy is a pastor.
Honestly, I thought maybe you have a background in theology. Apart from, we're all Christians. We all grew up in Christian families in this part of the country. So, but I was thinking that you had gotten something beyond, the family, the church.
No,
but I thought you had done a theological course.
No, I hadn't. But as I said,
that was so beautiful.
Thank you. And I think that's one of the. I think that part, being the Sunday morning show host, it was really fulfilling until it wasn't at a point, Maybe because, as I said, the background, but then I had watched my parents. In a way, I don't think we're missionaries, but we moved a lot growing up.
Yeah.
So we're always moving from different churches. And I saw how dedicated they were. We had to be in the choir. We had to basically build churches, right? So it was kind of easy because we had these pastors coming around. They would come pray. So it was just something it was just me, knowing the Bible that early and just being able to give it. Doesn't mean that I wasn't also studying for my shows.
Yeah, the way you anchored the show, I mean, you couldn't have been able to do it without
you can't
studying,
give what you don't have,
doing cross-referencing and all that.
Yes.
You grew up in Lagos. How was life growing up in Lagos?
It was fun. Yeah, funny enough, maybe if I didn't grow up in Lagos, maybe I would not have been a radio presenter. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if I grew up in Akai, maybe I wouldn't have been, because
Maybe you would have been.
maybe I would have
Maybe you would have done it higher.
Maybe I would have been, but if you look at it, in Lagos, we had radio stations first.
Okay.
Here it's quite later. So I grew up
that's true.
exactly in that sense. So I grew up listening to radio. It was TV first. My parents were quite okay when we were growing up, right? So it was TV. I started watching CNN and all of that, and I liked it, and NT and all of that. And then radio came along, and I loved radio. I liked TV, but I loved radio, right? And I wanted to do radio. I would sit with the small radios at that time. I think I had one, or I took from one of my brothers also. And then at night, I would listen in the morning. In the morning, my parents were fans of Dan Foster, of Cool FM, the late Dan Foster. So the station was always on Cool FM. They would change Cool FM, Metro, Rhythm. So it was that. So I kind of got into radio quite early, just because my parents were people who listened to the radio stations a lot. So that also helped me to say, I think I want to do this, because I loved what I was hearing. I loved the different voices. A lot of them right now are no longer doing radio. They've gone on to other things. Dare Atalade. Oh my God, I had a big crush on Dare Atalade, as a child, but now I think he's a singer and he's doing other things. Michelle Ashionye, she's an actress. A lot of them that I listen to, they've gone on to do something different, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted people to listen to me and who is this person, right? Who is this girl? I loved that element of mystery that radio then gave. I loved it so much because I would listen to them and oh my, these people, and I wanted to be that person. People just wonder, who is this person? So yeah, that's basically it. So
and
that's how Lagos helped me.
Okay, you also studied, is it English language?
Oh yeah, I did.
In the
English
University of Calabar.
Literature.
Would you say that assisted you one way or the other, or that inspired you into taking a career?
Of course.
Radio.
I mean, it was already obvious. Like I said, I already knew from my, early teen and all of that I loved radio, right? And so it was either communication arts or ELS in University of Calabar, but I didn't want to come to U because I didn't want to be around family people. So it was the same reason I left Lagos, because I didn't want to school in Unilag or LASU because I didn't want to be around my parents anymore. When you're a young adult, you're in your teens, your head is hot.
Yeah.
I want to be far away from them because all my life I had lived with these people, and you know how strict your parents are. You just want to run away, right? And luckily enough for me, my sister was already down in University of Calabar.
Okay.
So it was, my parents said, okay, your sister is there. It could help. So I'm like, better. I mean, better. And my sister is a lot better than being with my parents, and being in university. Because I knew somehow the university life was going to be different. I was already a very stubborn child, stubborn teen. So I knew that if I got on to school within where my parents were, I did not want that contention of, what is happening? You are wayward, I didn't want that, I didn't want that. So I wanted a place where I could just be free. So I took my jam, and I had both admissions, University of Calabar, University of U. But I said, Unical, because I didn't want to still be close to anybody around my family. I wanted to be far off because I didn't really have so much family members in Calabar. I just had a cousin and my sister, so it was okay for me. So that inspired the fact that I knew I wasn't going to do radio.
Yeah, that's good to
And
hear.
I love to read, so English, I thought I was just going to be reading all through. All the novels I wanted to read, so that was why I did English and literature.
Yeah, I had friends that studied English language, English literature.
Yeah.
A lot of books. They read so much all the time.
Got to read a lot, yeah.
Plenty, big books.
Of
and
course,
all that.
I mean, reading from drama to poetry and all of that, hey.
Yeah, but it's good. It makes you whole. It introduces you to a lot of aspects of life's experiences and all that. So let me ask, what in your assessment is the broadcast industry like in Nigeria? Have we made progress as a country? Have we made progress in the broadcast industry in the last 10 years of your being on radio? Or have we not made progress? Or would we have done better? Or what? So let me.
I think you've answered the question. We've made progress. We've retrogressed. and we could have probably done better, right? So we've made progress. I would give it to the Nigerian broadcast industry. We've done well. I think we've done well. But there is so much more that we could do or we could have done, especially in the sense of the censorship that we have, right?
By the NBC.
By the NBC. So as a whole, I think we've done well. We've done well from the kind of people that we have as broadcasters. I don't want to be too harsh because I think sometimes I still criticize the kind of people who are my colleagues, right? And this is not just an Akwa Ibom thing. I still frequent Lagos as often as I can. And so I know that when I listen to read, I'm like, why is this person on air? I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, veterans would do like, why is this person on air? What, all of that. But I feel like we've done well. We could have done better, but especially in the aspect of the censorship, like the media has to be known for the truth, has to be known for being a reliable source of information.
Like you have on social media platforms.
Yes,
the censorship there is not so much.
Nah, you could say what you want to say, but on radio, especially on radio, there's a lot of you can't say. You can't even talk about some certain things. Do you know that you cannot really talk about the 1967 Civil War as much as you should talk about on radio?
Wow.
Yeah, to a large extent. There's a way you could actually talk about it. You probably might have some kind of warnings that, you're trying to stoke some things because, it's a sensitive issue, right?
But that's an issue that has been discussed over and over on social media.
That's the thing. That's history for you. But you know how Nigeria is with history. We at a point, we're not teaching history in school. It will show you the kind of country that we are in. So there's a lot of attempt to hide history and, let it be some kind of secret, right? Because the truth is, if people knew what went down before, independence, after independence, and how people were treated, certain sets of people were treated, it might actually cause us to start asking very serious questions that might help us in the future. But that is not something that we can dwell on as we should love to dwell on. Even the Asaba massacre. Do you know that the Asaba massacre that occurred, you can't even talk about it so much. I remember one time, colleagues in Lagos, one of the stations, they talked about it and they were fined by the NBC.
It's sad to hear that.
It is. It's something that happens, right?
You see, Asaba massacre, the root causes of the Nigeria-Biafra war in 1967, and every other thing that happened leading to when Ojukwu left Biafra,
exactly the players, the people who were still somehow celebrating, who are still alive, who were major contributors to what happened to a certain sect of the country, they're still there. And if you talk about it in the way that it should be talked about,
no, honestly, it's something that Nigeria needs to look into. The NBC needs to relax some of these things and allow the new generation of Nigerian citizens to understand what truly happened. When you know the truth about what happened, I'm sure it has a way of also, you pick lessons from there.
Yes, and then it's healing. The truth is healing also.
That's it.
It is healing.
When Nelson Mandela took over as the first black president in South Africa, one of the things he did was to set up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Yeah.
And in that commission, people were expected to come tell the truth the way it is. Obasanjo did the same thing when he became the president of Nigeria, the civilian president of Nigeria, after many years of military dictatorship in Nigeria. Lots of persons were killed, lots of persons were detained, and all that. He set up the Oputa panel. Yeah. And in the Oputa panel, we could hear people tell the truth the way it is.
I remember it. I watched
it on TV. That's how it should be, so as to be able to pick lessons, to know what to avoid. You don't repeat the mistakes of the past and all that. So when you say NBC censors all
it's too much. Censorship is too much. I strongly believe in rules and laws because I do not believe that humans should be without them. I mean, I've been on radio, so I know that. And before I left radio, I was management, so I also had to enforce some kind of rules, in my department. And I knew that those things were necessary because if not, everybody's just going to be lawless, right? But at the same time, if your code, if your censorship is going to hamper and, stop or distort the truth and the fact, then there's a problem with that kind of censorship. And that's where I have a problem with the NBC. So in that sense, I think we can do better. We could have done better, but we can also do better because, the media is not dying, right? So the NBC must also learn to evolve as much as the media is evolving. Nigerian media is evolving because we've seen the times have definitely changed.
Yeah.
The NBC must evolve with the times. And I think when they start thinking of evolving with the times, then we'll see some kind of censorship that, should be done away with. They would be able to trash it and say, okay, you know what, this is too harsh. Can we tweak this? Can we make it better? So people can understand that the media stands for truth.
Yeah.
Right now, if you go on the streets and ask 10 people about what they think about the media, you would have very conflicting, statements. People say, they don't let us speak our minds. Yeah. When I was on radio, a lot of callers would say that, oh, you people don't let us speak our minds. It's not that we don't want you to speak your mind. It's the fact that I am, as a radio presenter, I don't want to take any fine for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay 150 or 250 for well, how, why? You get?
But let me also ask, with all the sanctions that NBC, is it NBC, right?
NBC,
Nigerian
yes.
Broadcasting Commission. With all the sanctions, do they also have training session for broadcasters? Do they gather broadcasters from...
By the NBC?
Yes, by the NBC.
Oh, yes, they do that, but not often. At least I've been to a couple of them. Before I left radio, at least I went to the one in Enugu.
Okay.
But it's not as often as you would, probably think it should be. But yeah, they do that. Maybe once in a year or twice.
Well, but to host it in Enugu all the way from Akai Ibom, I was thinking that it's something that they could have it in Akai Ibom, go from state to state and meet with, the persons that are broadcasting on the various radio
That's
stations.
why I said they have to, evolve with the times.
Yeah. And how old are their rules? Is it very...
The NBC came into... the NBC was, I think, 1992, in the early 90s. But it's in the early 90s. I'm very sure it's in the early 90s.
Okay.
So we're looking at laws from the early 90s.
Wow.
And in the early 90s, did we have democracy? Remember, some of these laws were made when we were in a military era.
Exactly.
So that is why the laws are the codes are how they are, right? We are now in a democracy.
Yeah.
One would expect that we would start thinking as democratic people and saying, what is democracy all about? Free speech. Free speech, yes. And that's what the NBC should start saying. All right, you know what? We need to have laws, but can we do better? And call the players, not just the station managers or the station owners, call the broadcasters themselves. Have these discussions. Let us talk about the way forward. Let us plan for the future. I don't know, before I left, I don't remember if, the NBC had any conference, talking about radio in the nearest future. But those are the kind of conversations we should start having, because this is 2024. And I'm in my 30s, I have seen the shifts. There's been a very big shift from the radio I grew up listening to what is now the radio of today. So if the NBC cannot realize that there's been a massive shift and then do things to move with the times, then we have a problem.
Massive shift. Today you can listen to radio using your phone.
Anywhere.
Internet and all that. It wasn't
You're not
like
even
that.
listening to radio these days. You're watching radio.
Okay.
You're
Because
watching.
most radio stations, they now go live.
Exactly. You have Facebook channels, YouTube channels. People are watching you. So it's no longer, we used to call it a blind medium. The radio is no longer a blind medium. We can't see you with your two eyes. So, so that's what it is right now.
So that seems to me that radio is gradually fading away.
Yes.
In a way.
Yes, in a way. Radio is, I'm using the word evolving because that's what it is, right?
Okay.
It is evolving with the times. So if, for instance, I have a lot of friends, even myself, I left radio last year. It's been 9 months. I don't remember tuning into the radio, right? But I know that I have seen different programs on Facebook, on YouTube, on
radio
Twitter,
stations.
from radio stations, right? Instagram, I'm watching somebody doing a live radio show. And that's how it is right now. So I don't necessarily need to tune into the radio, but I can watch the radio because radio is on the go right now, right? In those days, now, while radio was a blind medium and the fact that, we had to probably listen at home and all of that was the fact that we're not as busy as we are right now. The world has changed. We're on the go. Everybody is moving, right? And so everything is quick, fast, But that's what we see right now. So in a way, you get people who say they've not listened to radio in so long. But somehow, they could see online. They could view these channels or these radio stations. That's how radio is right now. So radio, in the sense that we knew it, is no longer what it is.
Well, in recent time, I have seen several radio stations springing up everywhere. Before now, you could just see one government radio station. The next thing you see one or two private radio stations. But today you see so many springing up everywhere. Let me ask you, as someone that has been in the broadcast industry for 10 years, active 10 years.
Yep.
Would you say this is growth and development? That's one. Number two, is radio so lucrative that almost everybody seems to be, going into it?
Like I don't even know. I have no idea. I remember the last time I had this discussion about a radio station coming up, and I said to the person, "Do you think there's money in this business?" I was still, actively a radio presenter, and I said, "Do you think there's money in this business?" Because I could say that, because especially where we are, right? I could say that because I knew, as part of management, I knew what we were getting monthly, to at least a figure. And in my head, it wasn't lucrative enough, right?
Yeah,
Some other persons might think it is, but I did not think it was. So the whole idea that radio is that lucrative, I don't know where they get it from, because I want to believe that is the only justification for the kind of stations that we are seeing. Stations who have just, not to bring any station down, but stations who should not be stations. Stations that people should not have. See, everybody should not do this radio thing. That's the thing. Well, it's a good thing. It's progress, right? Because the more radio stations you have, the more education, the more enlightenment for the people.
The more education, employment also.
Employment, yes, but I'm looking at it from what we're giving back to the society. The more enlightenment. Radio stations do a lot of educative programs, so people know, people learn things from the radio. They kind of like know the world from what's happening, from what we say. So that's great. But from the angle of when everybody's in a thing, it's like it's now too common, and because it's now too common, excellence is not what they're looking for anymore. That's why you could actually listen to radio stations and listen to the broadcasters, and you're like, what is this person doing on air? Because, my former boss...
The person is talking to the mic.
No, talking to the mic, but what are you saying? The question is, what are you saying?
I understand.
Exactly. So you're having people, because we have that many stations, we're also having these people who are owning these stations, not looking for the professionals to run the stations.
Could it be a matter of being able to pay the professionals, the real professionals, and bringing them in and paying them the money that they deserve?
The funny thing about radio is that I don't know. See, the thing about radio is they don't pay well. Okay. It's not like radio is that it's not. Being a radio person, you're not going to get a lot of money like that. Your salary, your basic salary, especially where we are.
But you get
for the region that we have. That is wrong. That is where I have a problem with the older generation of broadcasters.
They talk about connection. Over and above the money.
Exactly. They cost it. And they cost it. See, I don't want to sound rude to my elder colleagues, people who paved the way for us.
Profession, the profession just...
Yes, and then the people who paved the way, because they were there before us. They made us also, want to do this. But the thing is, they allowed a lot of, in quotes, rubbish. They took a lot of rubbish, in quotes, especially when it comes to the pay. So that's why you'd hear people like, radio will open doors for you. Yes, it will open doors for me, but I want a good pay. I want good pay for what I'm doing. Yeah. What if it doesn't open doors for me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it will open, but what if it doesn't? And even if it does open those doors, pay me for what I'm doing. What I'm doing on your station. Exactly. Pay me properly. Exactly. But the older generation were perfectly okay with this. It will open doors. I'll meet people. I'll have connection. So they were not even getting as much money as they should. You have to demand. When you demand, because you are senior colleagues. Because when we demand, you senior colleagues who are there, you make it look like we're being greedy or we are not asking for too much. We're asking for too much when I'm asking you that I know my worth and I know that I'm doing a great job, because this job is not just, it is mentally tasking.
Exactly.
It takes, if you're not careful, I knew what I went through as a radio presenter. I knew the habit I formed because I was a radio presenter.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to talk about on air, but I knew the habit I formed. I knew how those habits were detrimental to my health. And I know the difference now that I have left radio. I know how I feel a lot better in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
But those were things I did because I was on radio, right? And so when you demand for good pay, the people above you don't see it that way. I had this job offer to head a station, and I named my figures, how much I want to be paid.
Yeah.
And the person looked at me and said, "How dare I demand that?" I said, "Excuse me, what do you mean by that?" And the person went on to say, so person who's had decades of experience is not even earning what I was calling as I would, what I would get as monthly salary. And I felt insulted. Now, this was also a senior person, but I felt insulted that you would look at me and think that because a more senior colleague, probably grand, people in this business are not earning that, means that I also should take that. And so that's where the divide is. That's why I have a problem with the older generation, because they allowed a lot of things to happen. And because they allowed that, radio station owners, they're looking for ways to make profit. Every employer is looking for ways to make profit. So in whatever way that employer might make that profit and, cut costs and not spend a lot of money on expenses and all of that, the employer would go that route. So if you have 20 years and you say, for instance, you want to get 250,000 as your monthly salary, and I, who has 10 years, say I want to get 450,000 as a monthly salary, and I know my worth, who would you go for? You would go for the 20-year-old person, right? You would say, oh, he has more experience, but you're also forgetting that the experience he has sometimes is no longer relevant.
Yeah.
My experience is more relevant because I'm closer to what radio should be like now and in the future. Yeah. But they don't think that way. They think that in terms of, if this person is getting 250, so why do you want to get 450,000? That's exactly, especially in this area. So that's why I have a problem with these people who've gone before us. I wish that they demanded more for themselves. Yeah. I wish that they made it such that, yes, we would have connections. Yes, we'll meet people. Yes, we might actually make a lot of money by the side and all of that. But my basic salary should be, my take home should take me home properly. It should not stop me at the bus stop, right? It should take me home. There should be leftovers. It should be something I should be proud of, because the job on itself, it brings a lot of expectations, right? From people. Yeah. From people. I don't know how it is now. I think it's not really like that now. But I know that when I started radio, the burden of being this big person was on you. Oh, work on radio now. You have money. That's why you see people who worked on radio. I'm sorry to use the word. They are tattered, but they work on radio. Yeah. But you listen to their voices. They do a great job, you know. But you look at them like, is this person not living well? Yeah. Why? The salary that they are paid, it's not worth it. Exactly, with the work they do. So if the older generation of the people who are still there can start demanding, it will open doors for the younger ones. And I'm very glad that at least my own way, I did my part. I mean, I know that the companies that I worked, I definitely demanded more, and I made them see that, look, when people ask for certain salaries, weigh it against the backdrop of, one, their experiences and what they can do. Yeah. Right? What they can do on air. I'm not saying, by the side and every other thing. What they can do on air. Can they hold a program? Can they bring listeners? Can they say, this person, ever since this person started working here, we have more listeners. People love your show. Yeah. That is how it should be done. So when they want to pay people, professionals, peanuts, there's a problem. And then these professionals, you can't blame them. Yeah. They probably have known radio all their lives. So this is what I want to do. But they're paying me peanuts. Okay, I'll take it. But you're worth more than that, right? So there is that pay problem in the media. And not many stations, just maybe few stations, are very good with payment. Yeah. I have to say it. I mean, this is not something I'm just saying because it's this part of the country. everywhere. It's the same story. I have colleagues from everywhere. The thing about radio is that you get to know people, your colleagues from everywhere. So when we talk, similar experiences. So you know that you are not alone. And you know, oh, this thing happens here. This thing happens here. But it's not something that should keep happening. The media should be such that it is lucrative. People want to hear you speak. People want to know what you're doing. People want to see you outside and like, okay, you're not a, so to say, a tattered person, or you're not begging and all of that, right? No, you're doing well. You're talking and you are doing. Do not let these professionals, turn into some
beggars.
Not just beggars, but then dubious ways of making money.
Yeah. Pay them well.
Pay them well. Pay people
because really, radio presenters, they do a whole lot.
Of course.
You wake up so early. You run shift. You run this and that.
It is mentally tasking.
Yeah.
Whether you are happy or not, you have to do the job. See, there's a tagline: the show must go on. You lose someone, you hear the news, you take a few minutes off, you get back, and you do the show.
Wow.
I've had colleagues who've lost people, and the next day they're at work. I'm like, what's happening? The show must go on. That's it. The show must go on. You must not betray it.
Wow.
So you're not going to talk about your problems when you're on air, because, people don't want to listen to your problems in that sense. They want you to give them hope, some kind of solution. So even if you're talking about the fact that you've had some kind of problem, you don't dwell on it. Your bosses will come and tell you, why? This program is not about you. It is not about you. It's about the people, right? So the show must go on radio. So it's mentally tasking, emotionally demanding. It's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work. And radio people deserve good pay. Very good pay.
Good pay. I totally agree. Like the guys in the legislature would say, I concur.
Yes, please.
So I totally concur with you.
Yes, you do. You know I'm speaking the truth.
This is one of the reasons that lots of Nigerian citizens always think of going abroad. Because there, when you work for 1 hour, what you are paid is commensurate with, the efforts that you put in there. So I totally agree that radio presenters, they should be paid better. TV presenters, they should be paid better because, that's the truth. These ladies and gentlemen, they do
Gentlemen of the press. We're gentlemen, for God's sake.
Oh,
we should
gentlemen.
We're called gentlemen of the press, right?
You also take that because in the law profession, there is no woman. So everybody is gentleman of the law and all that.
Gentlemen of the press.
But I'm wondering why the feminists have not disagreed with this. I've been wondering, even in the legal profession, the feminists keep quiet when they say gentleman, my lord.
Gentlemen of
Not her lordship, but his lordship.
Yeah, why is that so? And why is it history?
I should ask
and
you.
Not her story.
I should ask you because
yes, I do.
You're a woman, and I know that you are someone that speaks for the identity of the woman to be.
I'm a feminist.
Good, you've said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so why then would women allow
to be
those
called
in the
gentlemen
press,
of the press,
those in the law profession, to be called gentlemen instead of ladies and
There's
gentlemen?
actually a reason for that. I don't think I can remember it, but I've had this discussion with one of my bosses one time, and this was the same time. I said, "Why is it gentlemen of the press?" I think when I just started radio, and I said, "No, if you want to address us, ladies and gentlemen of the press." And well, to be fair, in some of our gatherings, I hear ladies and gentlemen of the press. So,
formally.
Yeah, formally.
You're not allowed to be called.
It's not like you're not allowed. You can be called. You can actually be called it. But hey, it's just gentlemen of the press. I need to check out. You do history, so you need to check out the history of that for me.
I will do that.
Like why you call us gentlemen of the press?
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It's been so good, speaking with you for the number of minutes that we've been talking. You've said so much.
Have I? Because when you're on radio, when you do 5 hours shifts, I don't think we've talked for up to an hour, right? Is it up to an hour?
No, we're still on.
Okay.
I'm only saying that I'm personally enjoying the conversation because you've said so much that most of us did not know. I've not been a broadcaster before, and therefore listening to you, hearing these things from an insider, and I'm sure every other person listening to you, we've learned one or two things from you. But you're no more doing radio. So let's hear
Active
from you.
radio.
Active
Yeah,
radio.
like being on radio, like as I was before.
Okay, so how has life been living radio, active radio, like you have said?
Yes.
How has it been?
Life has been life.
You
Life
have
has been
more
good.
time now on your hands to play.
Oh, well, do I? Well, I think at least I have my night and my early mornings. I
Okay.
work. I transition to tech.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I work in 9 to 5. So I mean,
Okay.
it's normally, but it's a big shift for me because I mean I've worked 10 years not doing a 9. I've never done a 9 to 5, except when I was teaching at one point. But on the radio, it's not been 9 to 5. It was always early in the morning, mid morning, or evening, or night,
Yeah.
and I would run shifts, right? So this is different, where I am now working in 9 to 5. Surprisingly, it was so easy for me to switch, and I do not. Okay, I know why. I don't say I don't know. I know why. Because before I left radio, I had left radio mentally. 3 years before I left radio.
Really?
Yeah, if not 4 years. Because I left radio in 2020. I left radio mentally in 2020, the COVID year.
Wow.
After the COVID year, I just said no, I wasn't going to do radio anymore. So I had left radio already. So the 2021, 22, 23, it was just me just getting by. I knew I had left, and all of that. So it was easy for me to switch. I started preparing my mind for the possibility of getting a 9 to 5, working a different industry entirely, learning something different, doing, something totally different that I haven't done before. And so that was easy for me to do. So it's been good. So I'm like you now, you work in 9 to 5. You work in 9 to 5.
Oh.
You're a regular lawyer, so you work in 9 to 5.
Well, the lawyers work.
You guys work around the clock?
We work round the clock.
Oh, wow.
Honestly. So, but what I normally tell my colleagues is, you work and find time to rest.
Oh yeah, it's very
Once
important.
your body tells you go and sleep, just go and sleep.
Yeah, work. Yeah.
Yeah,
your
because you
body
don't
is-
have to kill yourself
Very
working for the client and all that. Do your best, work smart, and give yourself so much rest.
Yeah.
We can't end this conversation without me asking you about Nigeria. Nigeria in the last 1 year, what's your assessment?
Oh no, I don't talk about this country anymore.
I know.
Look, for 7 years plus, I was talking Nigeria, the way forward. How do we get this country better? What do we do? The last elections, I was talking. The last elections, I voted. I voted in 2015, and then the last elections. To show you how patriotic I was, I'm still patriotic. I take it back. Maybe not in that sense, but I voted, and I said to myself during the last election, even though I knew I was going to leave radio, I said, if this particular person would win this election, I would definitely be gone. Because I didn't want to sit around, being a part of analyzing his speech. The president said this. This is what's happening. The policies he's made so far. When I was still on radio, the president made the infamous decision to end subsidy.
Yeah.
It was his first speech while he was being inaugurated. And my heart broke. It shattered. My heart was already broken, but I think everything just left me that day. I remember we had to analyze it. I think you were the one on the show. I'm not sure when we talked. I think, were you the one on the show that day? Or, one of our analysts at that time when I was on radio? So it was so painful for me because, I knew that such a statement would plunge the country into despair. And I was right. A lot of us were right. A lot of us who said that this was not a move to make. Look at it. So what do you want me to say about the country? I just told myself then, anyway, I said, anyway, I'm going to stop this very soon. Months, few months, and I will be done talking about Nigeria and Nigeria's wahala. Whatever wants to happen, let it happen. I would be a citizen, a patriotic citizen by the side. And do what I have to do, obey the laws. I will not be traffic, I would not litter. Those are the things I said, you know what? I have contributed my quarter in making sure that we can have the Nigeria of our dreams. But apparently, it looks like we're not going to have it anytime soon. So in my own corner, outside radio, can I be a good citizen? Yes. Rose, what are the things you need to do? Obey the laws. And that's it. And I've had peace. I've had peace, and I'm so happy that I do not get to talk about this country because it's so miserable. Ekemini is so miserable. Let Let me tell you, do you know when I was on radio, as much as I worked 5 a.m. to 12, my shift was 5 to 10 actually, but I was management, so I had to stay on and all that. I was constantly on the web, watching videos, watching the news, following the stories, communicating with people, finding stories, getting different angles of what's happening in the country and the states every single minute. Like, that was what I was living for. I was a current affairs host. Exactly. So I needed to be current, right? I had to be current. I had to know what was happening, nationwide, statewide, local government. It was too much. And so when that happened, I said, anyway, Rose, you just have to endure. You'll be gone by December. You'll be gone. So I was on autopilot. I said, you know what? You'll be fine. Just endure. So sometimes I was just like, okay, put up a face. Yeah, you know how to act. And just act. I'll come on air and talk as if, I will ask you questions. Ekemini, why do you think that the government makes this decision? Well, in my head, don't worry, I'm going. So before anyone, because I was like, I cannot be a part of this miserableness, like this misery, this hopelessness. I was just tired. So please, let's not talk about Nigeria, because as it is right now, what do you want me to say?
Well, you've said
Ekemini, what do you want me to say about the country?
But you've said a lot already about Nigeria. In fact, what you've said, you've summarized, what's going on in the country right now. Life hasn't been easy.
It's been worse
for Nigerian citizens in the last 1 year, and I think 3 months or so. Life hasn't been easy at all. Like you rightly said, on the day of inauguration, the first thing the president did was to remove subsidy.
Who does that?
100%.
Who does that?
And at the point of the removal of the subsidy, one was asking, what's the alternative? Is it that the refineries are working? We have 4 refineries in Nigeria, Port Harcourt 2, Kaduna refinery, we have Warri refinery. Yeah. So Nigeria was able to build these refineries during the military era, and I think one was built during Shagari's era. Yeah. And over time, these refineries are no more working. And the president comes on board.
And they keep pumping monies into it.
They keep pumping money. The president comes on board and then says, I'm removing subsidy 100%. So what was the president expecting? Was he expecting that life is going to be very easy for the citizens of the country? Like you rightly said, petrol is the number one commodity in Nigeria.
It is.
Increase the price of petrol, every other thing will increase. The prices of every other thing in the market will increase. And that's what we have experienced in the last 1 year and 3 months or 4 months. Honestly, Rose, sometimes I wonder how Nigerian citizens are coping. You go to the villages, you see people that earn as little as 5,000 naira every month.
Yeah,
some
sadly.
10,000 naira.
Yeah. No, don't say the villages.
Okay.
In towns, in cities.
Okay.
20,000, 15, 25. 30,000 is the minimum wage, right? It has not been increased, though. Let nobody deceive you.
Yeah, because
they've been mentioning 70,000 since they have not increased it. Nobody has been paid 70,000.
Honestly, that's also a sad story to hear, because
has anybody been paid 70,000?
I was thinking that it's been signed into law, and the next thing will be implementation.
I
you normally see the implementation with core members.
But
the last payment, I've
33,000.
Core members have not been paid the 70,000 and all that. So life hasn't been easy for citizens of this country.
How can a bag of rice be 100,000?
100,000. 100,000. A bag of rice, 50 kg. And that is not funny. Lots of citizens are going through so much. Well, like you rightly said, you've left active radio, and so you're not talking about it anymore. I still go to radio from time to time, and I'm still confronted with the questions about Nigeria and all that. I wish I was like you, being spared the stress of having to talk about these things.
Look, see, it's been 9 months since I left radio. I think I look younger than my age right now. Because I've left radio. This stress of Nigeria was killing me. I had eye bags, like I had lines, I had wrinkles. I think I started seeing white hair late last year. I'm like, hey, Nigeria.
What Nigeria can do to you?
No, not exist. See, let me not even talk about this country, Ekemini. It's depressing. It's depressing.
Well, this is our country, and I've always wished that we should have the best in this country.
Yeah, but we don't have leaders who are willing to give us the best. So
Yeah, leadership has been a big problem for Nigeria. But let me ask you one last question before we go. You've been on radio for 10 years. What's your impression about the Nigerian judiciary lately? Court orders, left, right, and center.
would I say I'm disappointed?
I don't know. That's why I'm
I don't
asking.
want to say I'm disappointed because this is Nigeria. Like, I don't trust the judiciary. I'm sorry, a lawyer.
Okay.
You know how I feel. I mean, I think you're a respectable lawyer. You do your job well. You've got integrity. I mean, so far, I haven't had. As a broadcaster, you have some kind of investigative. I wasn't an investigative journalist, but at least I had the ear for. So I've not heard anything bad about you. I've been trying to do my own investigation to know if you're a corrupt lawyer, but you're not. So the thing is, I don't know what are you people doing? What is happening in the judiciary?
Me, I don't know. That's why I'm asking
What
you.
is the problem? I don't know. You were there. I mean, I could tell you one or two
The
things.
outsider could tell more, could tell better than the insider.
Well, you may not say now because you're still in there. I can understand. But the truth is, they have disappointed us.
Okay.
The judiciary should have been the arm for the common people, for the people. That's the arm for the people. But apparently, they haven't done their job. And I don't know.
What do you mean what do you mean by they haven't done their jobs? Is it that judges are not giving judgments anymore?
We've even seen
the doors of the courts are not being opened anymore.
No, they are open, but especially when it comes to governance and politics, we see it now. We see what happens. The kind of judgment that the case is, the judgment that they give, and you ask yourself, with the common knowledge that you have, why is this happening? So, why are judges doing this? What kind of case is this? Or it was dismissed for lack of technical know-how, or they couldn't prove their case and all of that. Well, I feel like the judiciary has not done well by the people.
Well,
they could do better.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The bad eggs are too many.
Well, I agree with you that the Nigerian judiciary could do better. The problem really comes when we have election season.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
I think that's where the Nigerian judiciary
has not shown that it is
election season. The court should be able to control, what happens during election season. You see pre-election matters, post-election matters, you see conflicting court judgments. You remember recently,
really embarrassing.
There was a court judgment that said policemen in Rivers State should not provide security for the election.
Who does that?
That was very surprising.
Very, even to you as a lawyer.
Yeah, even to me as a lawyer, because you see, security is something that you don't withdraw. Even during the war, you don't withdraw security.
Especially knowing the peculiar nature of Nigerian elections.
Yes. So when I heard an order being given for withdrawal of security, I said, wow, this one is quite surprising. But I hope that moving forward, the Nigerian judiciary will do better.
There has to be a shift.
There has to be. I totally agree with you. There is a new Chief Justice of Nigeria, someone that has been in the justice system for a number of years, and I expect her to bring fresh air into the justice system. So much fresh air, is needed in the justice system. Rozay, before we end this session, what's your parting words before we call it a wrap?
What should I say? I've had a good time talking with you, Ekemini. What else? What else do you want me? That's my parting shot. I've had a good time talking. Because I think all through my 10-year career, I can count the number of times I have accepted, interviews or people want to talk to me. I want to be the one talking.
So one of these days, I'm going to call you in. You be the one to interview me.
Oh, yeah. That's what I do.
You're going to ask me a lot of questions about law, human rights, whatever.
I would gladly do that.
Because I want to tell you something, that lots of people are missing you.
I know.
You had lots of fans in these states and across. I have someone that stays in Norway. And there was this interview that you and I had. It was the day that my younger sister was getting married. So I had to come to the radio station.
Oh, yeah, I remember that day.
And then from there, I left. Yeah. So immediately I left the studio, someone called me from Norway and said he was, listening.
That's the thing about radio. Radio is global right now. You could be anywhere listening to any station.
The person loves your voice so much on radio. Yeah. And I know that lots of people are missing Rozay on radio. Yes. Maybe I should pray that one day Rozay would have a rethink and still come back to radio at least once in a week. You know?
I don't know, but yeah, as I said, I think I used the word active radio because I still do radio things by the
active
side.
radio.
So yeah, active radio, like being on radio every day, is not something I do anymore. And I don't think it's something I want to do going forward. I just probably want to do every other thing by the side for radio, maybe consulting, serve as a results person and all of that, create content as I do. Yeah, that'll be fine, but I'm not sure I want to do radio. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we have our lives to take decisions every day. What's good for us is what we should go for.
Yeah.
And even if you don't go back to active radio, I want to tell you that you had done so much in 10 years. You had impacted lots of lives in 10 years. And I'm sure there are some persons that you groomed in the media space and all that. Again, people are still missing you on radio. It was so good having you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Ekemini.
I do hope that I will still have you from time to time to come and let us know most of the things that you know.
Yeah, have me here to talk, of course. Definitely. I'm always available. Always available.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.